What is up, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us today. Today, we're here to talk about NFTs and the power of community. I'm very thankful to be joined by WhaleShark and Annissa, two of the amazing representatives from the whale community. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Koopa Troopa, resident at Friends with Benefits and a bunch of DAOs in the ecosystem. Obviously, it's been a really exciting past couple weeks in the NFT community, and I'm very excited to sit down with some of the experts today to talk about what's happening behind the scenes, what are the trends you need to be aware of, and what should you be paying attention to. So without further ado, Whale, I'll kick it over to you. How are we doing today, man?
Dude, I'm doing great, and once again, always wonderful to see a friendly face and a really old friend. I'm really just thrilled and honored to be here today with Annissa to speak with you guys about NFTs and the power of community. We all know that NFTs what were a community movement, were a cultural movement, and I'm just psyched to be able to share any of the experiences and the knowledge that we have.
Awesome. Annissa, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to get to hear from you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing. Super stoked for the first Mint Fest, and it's an honor to be on here.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm super curious to hear. I know that you guys have been working together for quite a long time now. I want to go back to the origin for those who aren't familiar with it yet. Obviously, I know that you've talked quite extensively about the story behind Whale, but it would be great to hear, first from you, WhaleShark, the inception of the project, and then hopefully from Annissa. At what point did you hear about it, and when did you get looped into things?
Absolutely. Again, why don't I'll provide a tiny bit of background behind the way that we initiated it, and then after that, Annissa has really become the face of Whale over the last couple of months, and together we've been working on some amazing and exciting things to take Whale to the next level. And she's full time, pushing Whale forward, and she can talk a little bit about that, as well as her amazing propellants into stardom, coming in as an intern with Whale, actually. So I think the concept of Whales actually started 6 months after I entered the NFT space. So I had been collecting NFTs in July, August of 2019, and had been doing it purely out of love, right? I loved playing Gods Unchained, was very addicted to the game for quite a bit. Slowly fell down the rabbit hole and started collecting crypto art. Went against all of the big whales back then, started collecting those. After that, moving into digital real estate, other digital collectibles like NBA Top Shots. At some point in time, being on Twitter, NFT Twitter, eventually you realize that there's so much more to being a collector than just, being a sole individual. And having amassed this collection of back then I think it was about 200,000 NFTs, I started thinking, would it be possible to create a community, to create a social token that would be able to draw and bind and share that process of being a collector and being a lover of NFTs with the entire NFT community, while at the same time, boosting the profile of NFTs so that we could see. And hopefully I did play a little role in it, but the boom that we saw in February and March. So in roughly about March of 2020, I started talking to a lot of major players in the NFT space and pitching the idea. It got a lot of traction. Back then, no one had done it before. I mean, when you look now, there are a lot of organizations and wonderful organizations that use NFTs as a catalyst to generate communities through DAO, right? And those are all, when I look at these projects, it brings a smile to my face because, again, it's a wonderful idea and people love NFTs. So we started the Whale community on May 18th, 2020. Had a huge drop. Started off with about 500 members and really winged it, right? Because Koopa, I mean, you were in the social token space as well. We knew that social tokens were amazing, but there was no real roadmap, right, to be able to use social tokens to drive community engagement. So, just really, hanging out with you, hanging out with all of the other social token OGs and learning and innovating and, developing things like, role holding, hold to play, things like liquidity mining, and just, almost going to trial and error and, piecing all of that together and eventually going from the 500 members that we had originally, and going to the 20,000 worldwide members that we have today. It's been quite a journey, and we continue to try to innovate ourselves every single day. I think Annissa will tell you that she gets a headache when she sits down with me because it's always it's always, I think we need to innovate. I think we need to do something different. So it's very exciting. We're always pushing forward. But yeah, I mean, Annissa can talk a little bit more about what the growth has been since inception.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I can definitely tell you that getting to our first 1,000 members was definitely the toughest. But where we are today is that we've really managed to become the largest and most robust NFT community comprised of 15,000 members of pure collectors and creators on our Discord who have really been with us since our earlier recorded pricing of 17 cents all the way to our all-time high of $52. So we pioneered a lot of aspects like hold to play, tiered structures, and like WhaleShark mentioned, liquidity and NFT mining and DAO structure, even though we are far from seeing a fully functional DAO. But I can truly say that the blockchain really is one of the best places for networking as well. And the WhaleShark mentioned that I came in as an intern. So, there's a handful of people that are more than happy to help and educate. So the least that we can do is really pass down the favor for anyone looking to learn and educate themselves about the blockchain now, which is precisely what Whale has evolved into.
Absolutely. And I think for me, this was the first hybrid of the NFT and social token community. And I think one thing I want to highlight in this is that we have such a big community around social tokens. And now, thankfully, through the emergence of DAOs and these fractionalization standards, we're starting to see far more questions about, how do I join an NFT community? What does it mean to get involved on a deeper level behind collecting the NFTs? What I'm excited to talk about in this presentation is what does it mean to become a part of a community and how do you go deeper beyond the act of collecting, and hopefully explore a little bit of the nuance in between on joining a Discord server, becoming a contributor for a project, and over time really leaning into these core roles that we're starting to see across all of these DAOs today. And so maybe to kick off the conversation here, Whale, what's kind of been the perception of the last 2 to 3 weeks in the NFT market? And we've seen a ton of demand around generative art, avatars. How are you reading the whole situation?
So I think the NFT market is headed for a rebound, and we are, Whale is probably one of the NFT communities that has a very strong analytical foundation. So besides our partnership with non-fungible.com, who are actually chief partners of Whale, we also have an internal analytical team that does many interesting things. So I'm just going to give everybody a wink, wink, blink, blink here. I've seen spreadsheets, like hundreds of sheets that actually do analysis on the entire market. And what we're seeing is we saw the bottom out of the market probably about last month, and we're starting to see a pickup. Now, historically speaking, when we look at the cycles of NFTs, the bear and bull market is roughly a quarter, right? So it's roughly anywhere to 3 to 4 months, and that was the way that we actually took a look at the transition of the NFT market from February. So a lot of hard work has been going in the back, getting ready for the bull market that we hopefully believe will come in August or September. Now, given that, I think the NFT market has also very much greatly evolved. With the boom that we had in February and March, you had a lot of mainstream people enter, and it was wonderful to see how the entire world embraced NFTs, whether they were creators or collectors. Right now we are seeing, like you said, generative art projects. We're seeing, avatar or portrait-based projects. I think it's a really nice and easy way for people to enter into NFTs. And while we personally limit the number of projects that we expose ourselves from that perspective, I'm still a huge fan of two main areas of NFTs. The first one being digital art, simply because I think it's the most simple and the most direct, as well as the most practical use case that exists for NFTs at the time being. And then after that, when people do collect all these collectibles, or when they do collect all this art, the ability to display it in the metaverse is something that's extremely important, because, when people collect, we collect to share. And without that digital canvas to be able to share that with the world, it could get a little bit, it could get a little bit stifling if you're the only one that's looking at it every day. So I do believe that there's a strong investment thesis for digital land or digital real estate as well.
Annissa, when you look at the conversation happening in the Whale community on a day-to-day, what does it look like in the past week or two? Are there a lot of questions around generative art, around avatars and where to collect, or what do you see most of the community talking about these days?
Absolutely. So there's definitely been a lot of conversation around crypto collectible projects, with the boom of CryptoPunks and then crypto board apes and then now stoner cats and cool cats. It's all over the place. So definitely as WhaleShark mentioned, right? I think looking back in the last 2 years, these cycles typically last 3 to 4 months. So we are starting to see a slight pickup in the market. And even in our last stream with non-fungibles on our Discord, we did see, a slight pickup, and that was actually because of the hype from Meebits. So, NFT was definitely the gateway for creators and influencers to come into this space and amplify the real reason, for the commercializability of NFTs, which is for scarcity and provenance. So I think that's something that definitely picked up the conversation within the community.
Makes sense. Yeah, I want to stick on this topic because I think it's so dense that there's a lot to unpack here. I think on my end, it's been interesting watching the shift from foundation collectibles, super collectibles, things like Top Shot to these very speculative assets. In the case of something like a CryptoPunk, a Bored Ape, stoner cats, whatever you want to call it, you're starting to see a shift in the mindset and the way that people collect these drops. I would love to hear from you, Whale. Is this like anything you've seen in the past in NFTs, or do you think that there's a very new market segment coming into play that's allowing for these new market and asset classes to be discovered?
Koopa, bro, that's a really good and difficult question. So I would say that it's not something that I've ever seen before, right? It's not something that I've ever seen before. I mean, if you asked me 3 to 4 months ago, whether or not these sort of avatar or portrait-based NFT projects were going to gain as much steam as they did, I would have been, it would have been hard pressed for me to predict anything. Now, given that, I think, again, avatar-based projects, portrait-based projects, and generated art projects. They are very they're very easy. They're very easy to develop and enter into the space, not only for developers and creators, but also for collectors as well. When you look at collecting, I mean, if I was, and sorry, I'm gonna bootleg my answer a tiny bit here and call it internal audible, but when you look in the past and you see what did people collect in the physical space, because again, you want to draw. Usually, when you look at collecting, you want to be able to look at the physical world and be able to draw a parallel into what's a digital. What's probably one of the most famous things that people collected in the physical world. They're Beanie Babies, right? And what are Beanie Babies? Beanie Babies, again, they to a certain extent, due to the variety, one might say that they are generative, right? In some certain sense. And at the same time, people buy Beanie Babies that they think are cute or that represent them. So I think maybe we could be at the Beanie Baby stage, right? Of NFTs at the moment. Now, given that, I do think that this is, and we are still on the path to maturity of NFTs reaching a mainstream stage and a mainstream audience. So I guess the investment thesis from my side is, and again, you can make for all of the investors and traders out there. I mean, in the short term to midterm, you can make a lot of money, right? Buying into avatars and buying into some of these portrait-based projects. But I guess the question that I ask myself every single morning when I get up and go through the NFT market is, what's really going to hold value in 5 years and 10 years? Is it going to be these projects? Maybe, right? Very well, maybe. I mean, I missed out on the. I'm the first person to raise my hand and say that I missed out on the CryptoPunk craze. But I the way that I look at things and the way that I try to curate for the Whale Vault is I put myself 10 years down the road, looking at the mainstream market, looking at your sister, your brother, your mother, your father, your grandmother, your grandfather collecting NFTs, and really thinking through, what is going to hold value for those people in 10 years. So I think, again, the market is, I love what I'm seeing within the market. I love seeing the innovation in the space. I think that the generated projects, the portrait projects, and the avatar projects, they bring a lot of new creators and a lot of mainstream new creators simply because it's a strong way to express their individuality. But we're just going to have to wait, and time will tell.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And I really like that analogy to Beanie Babies. I think on my end, someone put it best to me and they said these are like trading cards. It's basically a way for people to be able to participate in these series in a really organic and natural way. You don't have to have sophisticated knowledge on a creator's past history to be able to say, a gold monkey is going to be more rare than one that has brown fur, right? And so you have these traits in, collectible series that allow people to very easily ascribe value to a specific series. And it definitely opens up a new window where, very similar to DeFi summer, I think that there's now a phase where there's a drop happening every single day. There's very specific you're in the right place at the right time. There's a lot of money to be made. And frankly, I think that's what a lot of crypto traders are looking for, are, highly speculative areas to play around with, very easily ascertained values and qualities. And if they can find those opportunities, it doesn't really surprise me that it's happening. But I think what has been surprising is A, the rate at which these drops are continually happening successfully, and then B, how sustainable some of these projects are. You look at something like Bored Ape Yacht Club. I believe as of today, the floor is now up to 14 ETH. And what seemed to have started as just another generative art series has now taken form of a really, really deep, highly aligned community in a way that I personally, did not see happening to the extent that I did. So I guess to kind of turn that into a question, at what point did you start noticing that these profile picture avatars were becoming as popular as they were?
I think so. I think they always had been popular, right? I mean, if I was to trace back and look at these profile-based projects, I mean, it's undeniable the fact that, CryptoPunks, right? You have the father of these profile-based NFTs. After that, when you're looking at my avatar as we speak today, again, this avatar is based off of one of the Avastars, right? That was created by NFT42. I think they really started to pick up steam, with Bored Yacht 8 Club and all of these other projects that started coming in. I share the same. However, I think it's interesting, and again, you can see I'm an active user of these projects. We hold. I think we hold about 25 of the top 100 Avastars in place. And I love the fact that they were generated on-chain, exist on-chain, will never die because, everything is on-chain. And I think that's a fantastic value proposition. But I do share some of the same concerns and observations, Koopa, that you brought up just now, right? Because essentially, I've recently been tweeting. I've been speaking quite a bit about it. But who does the NFT space belong to? What is the future? What is the future makeup of the NFT space? And then after that, looking back at some of the articles that were written during February and March during the NFT boom, people saying that the NFT space was growing because of crypto bros, right? Because of crypto native people. NFTs to me, at some point in time, are not going to be crypto native, right? It's not for the crypto bros, it's for everybody. It's for anybody who lives a digital lifestyle and really does want to own and truly manage their own digital assets. Now, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, when the general and mass makeup of the market is not crypto bros, what is that audience going to be interested in rather than things that purely appeal to a crypto appetite, right? So that's really, again, the thing I love about the Whale community is that we have so many collectors. And sometimes when I get on to Whale Hour, which is the 1 hour that I spend with the entire community, I have like 10 questions on projects that I've never heard of about, right? And I feel I'm like, how do I answer this? Because there's so many projects coming on board. It's very difficult to keep visibility on everything. But again, I tend to be one of the more conservative investors in the space. So my general investment thesis is, if NFT land isn't just for crypto bros, then what appeals to a larger market? What would appeal to, the children of the audience that is listening in today? What would appeal to, I guess, the family members of the audience members that are listening in today, and really approaching it by that way rather than approaching it from a crypto native perspective?
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense. And I think what I'll highlight there is that the successful avatar projects really have a true sense of community around them. An emphasis on identity and the ability to join a shared collective of people who have the same financial assets of you. I think it's very similar to what we saw with social tokens. I mean, looking at Whale and FWB, you have a Discord server where everyone's holding the same financial asset. You guys all have a shared sense of skin in the game for the projects that you're contributing to. And so for this kind of theory, Annissa, I know you mentioned that you came into the Whale community as an intern. What were those early signals for you? And can you talk a little bit about how you went from someone interested and excited about the community to actually taking on more of an ownership role in what you do on a day-to-day?
Absolutely. So I guess one way that I really familiarized myself with this space was really through Twitter and podcasts, which I don't think many people at the time really realized that was where NFTs were going to reside. I think looking back 3 years ago, I don't think NFT Twitter was even a thing. But I really followed one of the creators leading the space, like Andrew Steinwald, non-fungibles, John Egan, creating crypto, and Outlier Ventures, and really came across WhaleShark's podcast, Zuma Red. And I think Whale was just starting at that point. And I believe it wasn't even worth anything yet back then, but it was important to be ahead of the curve, and NFTs really sat at the edge of what was coming next for the blockchain. So I knew I wanted to get involved. So I reached out to WhaleShark with a position as an intern focused on marketing strategy, and then the rest is history. But essentially what I do on a day-to-day basis is really making sure, it's like 10 times posting a day essentially. It's engaging the community, making sure that there are rituals built into the community and that people are feeling alive and engaged and feeling grateful. Because essentially the goal here is to create novelty content, because at a time where digital communities are more than ever, and right at the same time that people are starting to spend less time online and more time reconnecting in person with people they haven't seen during the pandemic, being memorable is crucial, because the hard truth is that your members have other options. So I think building serendipity into your community is important, or more important than ever, if you want to differentiate yourself. So what I mean by that is serendipity is really events that the community doesn't expect. And so the goal here is really for people to be able to say, oh, wow, and have surprising insights or fresh new perspectives and shock and awe moments. So how we do this is really by promoting intentional one-on-one interactions, building meaningful connections, and delivering answers to questions they didn't even know they had.
I love that. I saw that you guys had one of my favorite DJs, Alice in Wonderland, come on Whale FM recently. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I'm super curious to hear about that sort of relationship. On my end, I work with a lot of musicians, and I'm noticing now that there's a lot of really creative people eager and excited to get into crypto. And I think for them, they're looking for communities that are very welcoming to sort of have their first step. I would love to hear about high level, like what have been some of the highlights of having those guests on Whale FM, and how has the community reacted to some of those conversations?
Absolutely. So I think most recently, we actually had a special edition artist fireside chat hosted by WhaleShark with Trevor Jones, A Lot of Money, and Don Diablo. And we also had a segmented series special for our Sharks and Whales, where we gave away POAPs and a lot of these giveaways. So with these partnerships that we do, the main thing that we want to do is for these artists to really be able to bootstrap themselves and have a voice on our platform, because that's essentially what Will is able to do, right? Is really providing that multi-channel Discord support. And so that's something we can do. And another highlight that we really were able to do, I think in the last few months, was of course inviting Paris Hilton onto the Whale Community Discord, which was definitely a hit, and something that we value a lot as a community.
Kuba, it's been just amazing. I mean, the relationships that we built with these artists, again, going all the way back, I think my very first musician friend, and dude, I am not as lucky as you to be able to rub shoulders with these amazing people every single day. But my very first musician friend was Blau, right? And Blau and I are really tight even today. And we just love building friendships, and a lot of these partnerships that you see today are based on the trust and the friendships that we build. I think you'll probably know that the best, right? These artists, while they're immensely talented, at the same time they're looking, like as you said, to build friendships with good people, right? They're looking to share their insights, share their work, and share their entry into NFT land. With a community that is warm, that is welcoming, that is supportive, because living in the public spotlight is extremely difficult. As you look at me today, here I am hiding behind a bearded avatar. I can't imagine even the stress that they must face on a daily basis when they actually have to come out with their real face, right? So I think everything that we've done with all of these artists that come on board is based on a very solid friendship. And at the same time, when they see how welcoming the community is, and dude, I mean, just a shout out to FWB here. You guys, I love you. I love the community, and Cooper, I've been involved for quite a while now. But communities like FWB and communities like Whale, essentially that positivity. We really become ambassadors for the social token and the NFT space, right? And it allows people to feel more welcome, to come into the space, to explore the space, to move forward into the space, and to become leaders in the space. I mean, case in point, as Annissa brought up, Paris Hilton, right? Paris Hilton came in. We all know that she'd been working or being exploring crypto for a very long time. But really her activity and her leadership in the NFT space came because she saw the immense amount of support that came in for her. So I think communities play an essential role, not only for the coins themselves, right? I think our co-founder of Whale, Alegria, said it best: strong community, strong coin. But it's not only about the price of the coin, it's about these communities being ambassadors for entire industries so that more people feel welcome to come in and enter and to be a long-term member of these industries.
Yeah, I love that. And I think on my end, learning how to empower those core community members and give them ownership roles in these communities is the single most fascinating thing that I've been working on. I think Annissa is a fantastic example of this. At FWB, we're now lucky to have 1 full-time contributor and 5 part-time contributors. And I think that in a world where DAOs have been highly playful, in the past 6 months, I really feel like we're starting to hit a stride where these are no longer, internet chat groups that you just hang out with casually. They're actually working in sustainable businesses that are developing on the new rails of the internet. And so with that in mind, I would love to hear what are 1 or 2 key takeaways you have from growing this community to where it is today for all of these new projects that are coming up and hoping to start a community from scratch.
Gotcha. It is a learning experience. And, I wish I could say I was a master, but I'm learning something new every single day. It's very much trial and error. FWB, Whale, and a lot of the other social token communities out there, I think we're pioneers in what we do. And we are very fortunate to have, social token OGs like Connie Digital, who really set the basis in exploring, what could social tokens do. Without those people, it would have been very difficult for us to have a springboard to achieve what we've achieved today. Now, if I had any piece of advice, and I know that I've said this so many times, but I always do believe that important things are worth repeating. 2 takeaways. So the first takeaway is, number 1, understand that social tokens are multidisciplinary. And Kuba, I think both you and I are probably the people that understand this the best, because social tokens is not as simple as saying, all right, I'm going to pluck a figure out of my head and I'm going to release 100 million tokens. I'm going to issue 100,000 of them every single month, and there and then we're done, right? It's not about that. It's so multidisciplinary and analytical that very often you either need to be extremely cross-disciplined, or you need to have a team that can be cross-disciplined, right? And when I talk about cross-disciplined, I mean you have to be cross-disciplined in economics, right? And economics and tokenomics, right? Because you have to understand how to set the basic structure up. Number 2, you need to have some knowledge of game theory, right? Because again, when you're using these social tokens, it's a methodology to be able to encourage, while at the same time also incentivize participation. If you give too much, then people will feel that their participation is not worth it. If you give too little, people won't participate in general. The third thing, again, it's about branding, right? Because again, you don't want to, you want people to have a social token community that they're extremely proud of. There is community management, because an empty Discord is a very sad Discord. And I think there are a whole slew of other like event management and all of these other things that need to happen. And again, FWB and Whale exemplify that the best, right? And I think that is seen within the token prices. The second thing that I would say, and I guess this is even more important than really having that multidisciplinary process, is being involved. Kuba, both you and I have been in the social token space for so long. How many projects have you seen where there's been a whole lot of, celebration and excitement about a social token launching, but because the founder or because, the leadership involved didn't understand that it's a full-time job to sit down there in Discord and talk to everybody on a daily basis, and then they get busy in life with other things, and eventually it becomes a very sad Discord, and you can hear the crickets chirping, and you can hear the smallest violin in the world playing, right? You need to be so involved, and it's a full-time job. So I would say if someone wants to develop a community, someone wants to develop a community around social tokens, they just need to accept the fact that it will fully absorb your life, and it's not always going to be pleasant conversations. But as a founder of a project, you do have ability to shape that culture and shape the conversation during the process.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And the biggest trend I've noticed lately is that social token V1 were all fungible tokens. FWB and Whale are both transferable tokens that have liquidity on Uniswap, versus now what we're seeing with NFTs. They share a lot of the same quality, but they're fundamentally different tokens. And so what I think is important to unpack here is it doesn't matter what the quality of the token is that you have, whether it's an ERC20, whether it's an ERC 721. The fact that you have members in a Discord that all hold some same financial asset, I think that's the underlying glue that ties everything together. And I think looking at that a little bit more, Annissa, I know that there's varying levels of holders in the Whale Discord. I would love to hear on your end, how do you think about sort of those different tiers of members that you have and the way that you communicate with them, the way that you check in on them, and the way that you sort of address the general health and sentiment of the community?
Absolutely. So I think communities with tier structures outperform. So if you couple with token gated access with specific benefits, even better. So 95 of communities should implement tier structures, not only because it keeps the barrier to entry high, but it's also to make sure that you're rewarding people who are backers to your token, and also because your members are set, really, to be able to set that community culture. So what we did in the early days was that we combined play to play and free to play gaming mechanics into our community and coined it hold to play. So since then, we have now 3 hold-to-play roles, which are dolphin, sharks, and whales, where, for example, people can stake 22 whale per month to be what we call a dolphin, or stake 1,100 whale for them to be what we call a whale, which is some access to different community events, exclusive market analysis reports from our market analysis team, exclusive streams with top data analysts in the space, exclusive interactions with top influencers, and in and out of the space, as well as whale drops. And the keyword here is exclusivity, because exclusivity and scarcity drives demand. So it's interesting, right? Because on average, people are really able to get a 20 to 80% ROI just from participating in hold to play in DeFi mechanisms every single month, not every single year, but every single month. And I think you can see this with, Wall Street bets, NFTs, and crypto. They all offer something that's beyond rampant speculation, and that's a sense of community, right? Social communities are also a lot more fun when people are seeing financial upside. But essentially, when we're trying to assess the health of, the channels or the different members, we have, 11 part-time members in our Discord that are working day to day, 24 hours, living and breathing crypto on our Discord. They're making sure that people, that we're answering questions, and again, having that one-on-one personalized experience. And I think that having that online, communication is just as important as having that offline to really create that stickiness within the community.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting too, starting to notice the IRL to URL crossover. This last week here in LA, I went to a Bored Ape Yacht Club meetup down in Venice, and there was a bunch of people that had their ape shirts on. There was a bunch of people that had created artwork around the gallery with Bored Ape sort of culture around it. And I think seeing these opportunities to go from a digital sector into a physical on behalf of the NFTs you own, it's a very surreal experience. And with that in mind, I would love to hear, Whale, have you been paying attention to any of the other DAOs that have been popping up, or any communities that you think have been doing a great job of really just empowering their members and sort of supporting this general community ethos?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Annissa and I were just talking about Eugenie. We were just talking about Eugenie over dinner yesterday, actually. Again, I tend to keep my eye on everything. However, I am, I'll always be absolutely transparent and honest about what I hold personally. Again, my 2 favorites, right? My 2 favorites in the space are easily FWB and Whale. And just talking about FWB for a second, I mean, the reason why I'm so bullish and so supportive of FWB is because they have an insane community that is so engaged and active, and at the same time, the leadership team drives so much engagement and interesting activities that, when I look at Whale, we were a community that was based off of NFTs. But when I look at FWB, FWB is a community that is based off of true camaraderie and true interest, right? So that's why I'm a huge fan of FWB. But looking at the other space in terms of projects that are similar to Whale that have been driving communities, I've heard quite a bit and quite a lot of good things about things like Eugenie, and Annissa and I were going through the information, and we're very pleasantly surprised to see them again use a similar concept to get people to come in and to be a part of collecting NFTs. The other one that's really interesting is Flamingo DAO, right? So seeing Flamingo DAO and seeing them also, again, propel the NFT space forward by actually, again, collecting all of these NFTs and having their members have a real stake in driving those decisions in terms of what to collect and how to collect. Now, I would just end my comments by saying that there's a lot of gray areas pertaining to regulation, pertaining to what is managed by the SEC and what is not. So I do tend to always err on the side of caution when it comes to these sort of activities. I want to make sure that I build something that will last far beyond my lifetime, which is why rather than having a direct fractional approach towards the Whale Vault, we've actually tied in mechanisms that allow the community to benefit from the vault through usage, through use case, through benefits of using the Whale token, and then after that, having these virtual cables that allow the price or the members to also benefit from the sale and purchase of NFTs. But I think again, it's still very, very early days. I'm hoping that everyone at some point in time, I'm going to open up my Twitter and I'm going to see new projects like that spring up every single day. I've always been very adamant about the fact that after NFTs, the next thing that's coming up is going to be social tokens. And I can tell you that while I've been relatively quiet on social media, the one thing that I've been doing is scouting out social tokens and looking to try replicate the success that I've been fortunate enough to have with NFTs in social tokens. And Koopa, dude, you have full visibility on my liquidity provision to FWB. I've been with you guys for a while. I mean, you can give me a vote. You can give me a vote of confidence there.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think what's been fascinating to me is this new wave around fractionalization opens up so many on-ramps for new communities to form. Just in the past week, I joined a hoodie community, which is a fractionalized crypto punk of a hoodie avatar, run by Dees5, who runs some awesome Twitter spaces. I think seeing the ability for smaller investors to participate in communities around larger assets has been fascinating to me. I'm a huge believer and supporter of the art blocks community, things like Squiggle DAO, the recent activity around Fidenzas and the Eternal Pump. There's these really small niche pockets of NFTs that as you start to see more and more of them, you notice the same faces popping up. And I think what's been funny for me to see is, it doesn't matter what people are collecting. What I look for is the people who are collecting them. And over time, you start to notice patterns where there's the same crowd of people going around to these different assets, really lifting them up and having a strong confidence in the viability of them. And as a result, supporting the artists that are creating these things. So, on my end, I think that watching the transition from collecting NFTs to then, democratization through social tokens has been a fascinating trend to watch. And to your earlier point, Whale, I think that social tokens to me are no longer about minting 10 million tokens on roll and then having it be distributed in airdrop. I think we're starting to see a lot of really novel mechanisms to kickstart these things. You see mirror crowdfunds where people are doing 25 ETH crowdfunds in order to fund blog posts and to fund crowdfund experiments for DAOs. You're seeing things like PartyBid, which launched today, where 500 internet strangers are now coming together to try and win an alien CryptoPunk. And I think across the board, what you're seeing is that people want to band together and collect these really valuable assets. And for the first time in history, we now have the ability to do so. And so, maybe turning that into a question, I think, what are your predictions for how the next couple months shape out here? Maybe first and foremost with the NFT market, and then more broadly with kind of a macro overview of crypto as a whole.
Would love to. Okay, so from an NFT perspective, again, as I mentioned earlier on today, we have seen the bottom of the market based on the information that we're seeing, and we're excited to release a lot of those analytics. And Annissa will smack me over the head if I say too much. But we are excited to release some of those analytics over the coming month and 2 months, right? So I think we have a very strong analytical team who's actually pulling out the numbers and churning through them and applying various statistical analyses to be able to understand where we are and where we're headed. But from the basis of the information that I've seen so far, we've pretty much bottomed out. We have an index, and I'm not going to say what type of index it is. We do have an index that shows that we are on the upturn. And essentially what we're seeing is that we are moving back into bull market mode. I'm hoping to see that bull market strike sooner than later. And my prediction always has been, as we saw the crash, I guess in April, that we would see a revival sometime in August or September, right? So I do think we're going to see that. On the other side, again, in my current position within the industry, I've been very fortunate enough to be able to connect with a lot of creators, whether they be individual celebrities or whether they be large organizations. I have not seen as much buzz today than I have ever seen ever before. rather than an index and rather than analyses, something that is very indicative of where the market is headed is my email inbox, right? So I will tell everyone that my email inbox is literally as busy as it was in February, March, and April. So if you guys want to take that as an indicator, a lot of new projects are coming on board. I do believe we are headed into a paradigm shift where we will have major products be ambassadors for NFTs for the mainstream. So, I'm always very transparent. Everybody always exercise a strong amount of caution, always do a strong amount of due diligence, and understand that there are going to be paradigm shifts within the NFT market as it moves towards maturity. One of the biggest, verifications and validations of that was NBA Top Shots. Ultimately, answering your last question regarding social tokens, I've always said, even during the boom time of NFTs, that the next movement is going to be social tokens. And I do strongly believe that when the creators that created NFTs and were able to do very well in NFTs understand that they can create their own cryptocurrency or their own way to incentivize their following without having to spend fiat and be able to really create an economy all by themselves, that is ultimately going to take place as well. And, again, matching that, all of the background conversations I'm having, all of the inbox messages I'm receiving, social tokens are going to go for it as well.
I love that. Well, guys, we dove into quite a lot here today. I want to end this just giving you a chance to tell people where to stay up with you. Maybe I'll toss it back to you, Whale, first, and then Annissa, I'd love for you to give people an opportunity to tell them where can they stay around with your work.
Absolutely. So make sure you guys follow the Whale Twitter. So I think it's whale_community. And we have a bunch of other links. I'll let Annissa go for gold. Annissa, go ahead.
Absolutely. So you should check out our Discord at discord.gg/whale. And our YouTube is just Whale Community. And definitely our Twitter is whale and then _community. So feel free to check us out. I'm going to be there. My name is just Annissa on Discord as well. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions about the Whale community.
Awesome. And you can find me at Koopa Troopa across all platforms, fwb.help to get started with the Friends with Benefits community. Luke, thank you so much for having us. This was a fantastic panel. And guys, look forward to doing it again very, very soon.
Thank you so much, my friend. It's been wonderful.
Am I on? Can you guys see me? Am I here?
Bro, long time. How are you?
I'm good, man. When we did the interview with WhaleShark, I just want to say, first of all, just reading the comments here and in the Discord already, this conversation is just breaking people's minds. And the only other time that we've done that, Whale, was with you 4 months ago when people were like, oh, Top Shot, I don't even understand what's happening, but I love it. And then you came on the podcast and they were just like, who the hell is it? What's happening? Who's this guy who has all these NFTs, got this massive community? What have we been missing out on? Right. So it's a pleasure to have you as always. Annissa, it's great to hear from you. Through my advent into NFTs, I mainly have followed WhaleShark, heard him on podcasts and Cooper as well. But Annissa, it's great to hear from you and kind of get your perspective and great to see more from you from the Whale community. I also think that starting as an intern or a small community member of the Whale community is such a perfect example of what you can do in this business, in this community, in this industry is literally start with passion, find the right community, and then boom, just like that, you are now taking over for WhaleShark, or not taking over, but there with WhaleShark, as the other face of WhaleShark. So it's just I think that's so cool. And Cooper, a good friend, you're one of the people who inspired me to get into crypto and put my voice out there and do NFTs. One of the first people I found. So being here with you guys is literally when a player is I'm an NBA player is when I was 12 I would watch LeBron on TV and now I'm playing against him. This is honestly what it feels like to be chatting with you guys. So I'm honored you guys want to be part of the festival and very stoked you're here and appreciate all the wise words you guys have shared with us and agree with a lot of the takes about what is coming next, especially as we go back into winter and there's a little less evening time to go peruse at the beach or in the park, and people got a bit more time on their hands to spend speculating NFTs and social tokens, all that kind of stuff. I'm very excited for the next 6 to 12 months. So anyways, oh yeah, go ahead, WhaleShark.
It's truly be an honor, man. And I don't usually get starstruck very often, but having you and Koopa on here, dude, I absolutely love every single time you guys have words of wisdom to add to the space. And Luke, I think you're a perfect example of someone who entered the space and just blew it up, right? The conversation that I had with you on the first mint was probably one of the most exciting and fun conversations I've ever had. You still haven't been able to verify whether I'm Yao Ming or not. But again, I think we're gonna have a lot of fun as we move through the space, my friend.
When is the basketball match? Because when I first started chatting with Cooper as well, he's like, I'm a baller. That's literally one of the first things that Cooper said to me. So now I'm just like, all right, when is the title match? Because WhaleShark, you told me as well that you used to play and you still play sometimes. So it's just like, I want to see like when are we going to the summer league in Vegas with the NBA to have our own showdown. So that's what
dude, might not be as tall as both of you, but I do have a mean reverse layup. So I think you guys are in trouble.
Cooper's definitely the tallest by far. I've seen the photos of him beside Jess, and I'm just like, whoa, he's definitely up there. So, awesome. Okay, well. Everybody, thank you for the panel. Everybody who's been watching, thank you for an awesome day. Thank you. Everybody who came on today was just absolutely fantastic. It's like I've always said, when the day of the festival ends, just like it ended yesterday, it's insane to believe we're already done 2 days out of 3. We do have one more event today. It starts in about 40 minutes. It's a metaverse party. It's taking place in crypto voxels. Many people have already won themselves exclusive first mint wearables for tonight, including some shirts and some beanies. We're giving out more, and we're going to have our awesome artist Otis up, who is a legend in the crypto voxel space. We're going to be hanging out at his studio rooftop for the party, as well as Freddie, the DJ, aka Caruso's missing hair, well known in the Top Shot community, spinning beats for us. It's going to be a quest challenge tonight to get that final POAP. So you got to listen in. You got to listen to what the quest is to get the keywords for that POAP. So tune in. That is going to take place in the Discord and in Crypto Voxels, not on stream. So we're done with the stream today, but everything's going to go down in the First Mint Fest Festival HQ Discord. That's it for today. We'll be back with more streams tomorrow in the finale of First Mint Fest. Good night, everybody.
Thank you guys. Good night. Peace.
Thank you, everyone.